right, here we are, ready to start paragraph 3. And the first thing you're going to see here, our first sentence starts with ubi. So what kind of clause are we going to have? A subordinate clause. So we're going to go ahead and mark here. This is our subordinate clause. We go from ubi to our verb. Main clause here. And when we translate this, you'll see why that's the case again, because ubi ques haec cognoscent. When the citizens learn these things, can't stand on its own. Doesn't make any sense on its own, but omnes vade timent, all are very afraid. All are very afraid could be a complete sentence. We're also going to stop here and take a look at haec. If you asked me, I would say this use of haec is one of the most common you'll see in Latin, and it's one of the most confusing. It takes a lot of practice to start to recognize this. So if you remember our pronouns, hic, haec, hoc, it works sort of like ile, right? So ile is going to mean that as a demonstrative, but it could also be a third person pronoun. Hic, haec, hoc is going to mean this, but it could also be a demonstrative or a pronoun. So hic, haec, hoc, when the citizens learn these things. Haec, like you see here, could be your feminine nominative singular. It can also be your neuter nominative or accusative plural. So we're going to go ahead and use our blue highlighter to mark this here as a pronoun. And we're going to mark it as neuter. Let's switch back to our pen. Neuter accusative plural. And when you have a neuter in the plural, you can just translate it as these things. So when the citizens learn these things, so let's see, all are very afraid. Ad coriam convenient et patres jubent urbem servare clamant. They come together to the corium, to the Senate House. So we'll go back to marking what words go together. These are going to go together. And the fathers, Latin literature uses patres to mean the senators. So it could mean a father, like Flaccus is a pater to Quintus, but it also means the senators in Rome. So they order the senators to save the city. So they, right, the citizens are still your subject here, and the patres are your accusative. They shout, urbs in magno periculo est. The city, and all these are going to go together, is in great danger. Urbem servate, o patres, hostes repellite. Save the city, O fathers, drive back the enemies. Consul patribus dicit, the consul says to the senators. So every year, and you'll learn about this in the culture section, Rome will elect 2 consuls. So you have the senators, which are kind of an advisory board for politics in Rome, and then the consuls are the 2 people in charge of all the decision making. So the consul says to the senators, quid facere debemus, o patres? What should we do, O senators? Quomodo urbem servare possumus. So we're going to pause here because this verb is one that students tend to forget. So what verb does possumus come from? If you said possum, to be able, you are correct. So how, quomodo means how, are we able to save the city? Patres respondet, quinquinatus solus nos serrare potest. The senators respond, Cincinnatus alone solus, or only Cincinnatus. Potest, we'll stop here, comes from what verb? If you said possum, you are again correct. he is able, Cincinnatus alone is able to save us. And let's pause here and talk about our pronoun. So where is our pronoun in that sentence? You said nos, you are correct. Now, what case is nos? What number and what case? Is it singular, plural, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative? You are right. It is accusative, plural, because it is the direct object of your infinitive. Cincinnatus alone is able to save us. Nam militiae peritus est et vir fortis, qui patriam amat et hostes semper vincit. For he is experienced in the military and is a brave man. So all of these words here are referring to Cincinnatus. Now, what kind of pronoun do we have with qui? Is it demonstrative, personal, intensive, relative, reflexive? You said relative. You are correct. So, qui, if you remember, our relative pronouns are going to introduce us to a subordinate clause. So we could just leave our sentence as for, he is skilled in fighting and is a brave man. That makes sense on its own. But now we're going to get some more information in our relative clause. So when you see your relative, start there and go until you hit a verb. But we have an et, which means that we're going to have two parts to our sentence, so we can go till we hit our next verb. And don't forget, we translate relatives as who or which, and they always refer back to something in the main clause. So qui, you want to think about what gender it is and what number it is. That'll help you figure out what it's referring back to or who it's referring back to. Who or what does qui refer back to? Cincinnatus, exactly. So this is masculine, singular, refers back to Cincinnatus. It has to be nominative because Cincinnatus is going to be the subject in your relative clause as well. So, a brave man who loves the country and always conquers the enemies. Eam dictatorem creare debemus. We should appoint him as a dictator. Eam here is going to be what? A pronoun or an adjective? Correct, a pronoun. Eam. And who or what does eam take the place of in our sentence? Exactly, it's Cincinnatus again. So, in your sentence, Cincinnatus here is the object, so it's going to be masculine, accusative, singular. We should appoint him being Cincinnatus, as a dictator. Cincinnatum ad urbem statem arcesite. Bring Cincinnatus to the city immediately.